Hi, team. Welcome to the Skate Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Coming up, Sema is going to tell us the story of a poor farm boy named Tenebrae. But first, some game and other guild news. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 184, who consumed the life force of all of his closest friends to gain great power, but still has to ride in this escape pod. With me, as always, is Sema, who is trying to consume my life force, apparently. I don't know why I said that. Hi, Sema. How's it going?
It's going good. We actually had some snow yesterday. It was very little snow, but it was still like white and falling from the sky, so it was
Hmm.
snow. But in
Did you
SWTOR
have three
news,
snow?
yeah, it snowed for 3. Um, I finally hit tier 2 in CXP, so it's CXP 91 opened my first tier 2 crate. But then we went to MFN, and throughout the course of MFN tonight, we did Karagas Palace, and I did have a boost on. I went up to 97,
Wow.
from 91 to 97 during
Dramatic.
MFN. Yeah. In my very first tier 2 crate, I got a wee Nexu pet, which I was very happy with. I
Yeah,
mean,
that is pretty cool.
if you can't get a set piece, at least you can get a Nexu pet. I mean, I think he's the pet I've liked the most so far of the pets.
Yeah, I like him. I've been getting a good number of pets out of some of those command packs and have
Yeah,
been amused. So that's good.
I like that. Um, Last week for our regular ops night, we were missing a couple of people, so we did veteran uprisings, which was fun. And except for a couple of us, you and Kobu did PvP, but 4 of us ran uprisings, and that was fun. And then MFN, like I said tonight, we did KP. Yeah, and today ops, since this is a Tuesday when we did this, ops was the bonus. That's why we were getting so much CXP. So it was very CXP lucrative, much CXP.
Yes.
But other than that, I did a bunch of other than ops, I also did a bunch of the heroic planetary missions, and I did a thing today which I don't normally do, which is I was playing in the afternoon, and I didn't realize that when I played in the morning during my coffee and contemplation, it was before the reset. So I did like some weeklies more than the weekly, like the Oricon weekly and the Black Hole weekly. I did them this morning, and then I did them again this afternoon.
Huh.
And those give you quite a big bump too.
Right.
So that got me over to 91. Yay! I mean, technically, I guess in 90 you're tier 2, but you don't get a crate for it until you hit 91.
Correct.
So the crate you get at 90 is actually your 89 crate, I guess. But anyway,
Right.
yes.
That's the
So
case.
that was fun. And how about you?
As you said, I did do PvP, but I did do one of the uprisings that we did on Thursday. I forgot
Hmm.
which one we did. It was one that I hadn't done before. And it was, what were we doing? We were inside something somewhere. I think it was where they were trying to repair the starbase or something. But the number of ads, remember it was like a billion ads. Waves. There's the one boss that's shielded, and there's just waves and waves and waves of ads that you have to keep killing, and AoEing down constantly until his shield goes down. And we did them in veteran or master. Did we do them in veteran or? I think we did them in veteran mode, didn't we? So that was also
Yes, we did
we
do in
started
veteran.
right in.
Oh,
We're,
yeah. No, we did some in master, didn't we?
maybe we did them in master, and which was not easy, but fun, and quite a lot
Yes.
of CXP. But I did do quite a bit of GSF and PvP throughout the week, and put on a whole bunch of CXP levels again, and I'm up to command rank 199.
Dang.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Dang.
So
It is crazy.
I had good luck at the tail end of tier 2, and I know they don't even have, so you will have that kind of good luck, a better chance of that kind of good luck in the future. That's not implemented yet. I did have I did have good luck though at the end of tier 2. So I had 4 legendary 236 pieces, a relic, 2 implants, and an earpiece. It wasn't the armorings on the regular pieces, unfortunately, but that's not bad. But since I went to tier 3 and now I'm 19, 18 crates into tier 3, I have not gotten very much. I think I maybe got 1 upgrade. Yeah, no set pieces, and I think I got a serendipitous assault. So I did get that I'll be able to switch in, which I haven't switched in yet. I haven't augmented it. So I got one of my relics, which was my last 224 piece. I got to the 240 serendipitous assault. During the podcast, I will open these other 5 crates, though, if I cannot be too distracted this week and maybe a terrible conversationalist.
No, you have to listen to me.
What? Sorry. Opening crates. Oh, and here's the little Nightmare Kell Dragon I got out of a crate, which I was amused by over the weekend.
He is. I like him. Yeah, he's cool too.
He's pretty cool.
Little red beady eyes.
Little pet. See, look, I got my big Nexu. That matches up with your little Nexu. I got to get one of those little Nexus now.
Yeah.
Match up with my big one. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, but we could talk about some actual
They're both
news.
so freaking happy.
They are.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
Good news, everyone. The Unstable Arbiter's lightsaber will be for sale directly from the cartel market for only the low price of 7,600 cartel coins, which, if you're going to buy the cartel coins for cash on the open market, like from Amazon off of the cartel coin cards, that will run you about $60 to get that lightsaber. It is an experiment. So this is what BioWare has expressed explicitly. This is an experiment. They're putting it out there. They certainly did not want to undervalue it. They didn't want to depress the value of putting this out there on the cartel market at all. So they're putting it out there, starting at a really high price. They don't want to flood the market, so there's tons of these all over the place because it won't be special for the people that did get it out of a crate and got the sweet rare drop. However, $60 is crazy for
it's too much for me, but I'm not going to judge because I know people across many games, and there's all different levels that people are willing to go. Like they're willing to farm this many hours, or they're willing to spend this many dollars. It's just all over the map. So, I mean, if you have that and it's disposable income, you can afford it more, and you run it that much. I mean, hey, it's no different from buying a bracelet for that much, or a special pair of socks or something. Well, I wouldn't pay $60. Well, anyway, you get my point.
It's true. Yes, I do get your point. But that sounds
like one
pretty
night
high
at the
for me.
movies if you take the whole family.
That is.
And if you really want that lightsaber and you play with it every day, no pun, no euphemism intended, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, that's like one bottle of pretty good scotch. So there you go. What else?
So Eric also posted a clarification about crates. So there is going to be a change coming in 5.2, which we've talked about on what's inside the crates, but he says there's no benefit to hanging onto the crates. So the level or the rating of them is decided when you acquire the crate, not when you open it. So they said just open your crates when you get them. There's no percentage in saving them until then. The actual contents are created when you open them. So that's like you can change disciplines and open it and get like the tank pieces instead of the healer pieces. But the actual tier or rating or whatever of the crate won't change in your inventory.
Got it. So I should just go ahead and open my tier 3 crates like I just did, and I got a 242 set piece out of the first one I just tried to open.
Oh, nice.
And it was for my last 230 set piece, my bracers.
Maybe that will help your DPS.
I have 230 feet as well. Yeah, my what are you trying to say? I think you just hurt my
You're,
feelings there. Gonna cry
it'll
myself to
make
sleep in my
your fabulous
huge
DPS
pillow.
even more fabulous. I'm all about DPSers getting good gear.
I'm all about that base. Also in the news, yo, Blizzard, why you nerf that Fractured Uprising CXP? That question was asked, and the answer was, oops. They they did want to nerf that, potentially nerf that Fractured Uprising CXP eventually. It wasn't supposed to happen necessarily till 5.2, and it was mostly to normalize across the amount of players and the amount of time. Doing things with
Right.
more players should gain you more CXP per hour, and you should only be gaining a maximum of some range of CXP per hour for each type of activity. And we know that Fractured only takes 10 minutes with not very many people running through it. Did I say Blizzard? Damn it. BioWare. They should change. Somebody's got to change they can't both start with B.
Blizzard aware.
Game Company X. So yeah, what BioWare said was,
Just
should
say
I
our
edit that
daddy.
out because it's embarrassing? No,
So
we'll roll with it.
wrong.
So yeah, so BioWare said wasn't supposed to happen until 5.2, but it did slip in. That's why it didn't end up in the notes. It was an intentional change, just wasn't supposed to go in yet. I'm
So does that
fine
mean
with that.
that after 5.2, different uprisings will provide you at the end different amounts of CXP?
I think that's possible. What I bet
Certainly.
is it won't it'll only be in rare cases. So
Yeah.
like right now the operations doing the mission for the operations all award the same amount of CXP except for Temple of Sacrifice. And that's more. So I think they're going to make exceptions for ones that they know are harder or longer or
Longer.
shorter or just a couple of the exceptions. Otherwise they're going to keep it pretty steady. So what else?
yeah.
What other question was asked of
So
BioWizard?
what happened Saturday night? So apparently there was a hardware failure on Saturday night which prevented people from logging in, and they do have backups for that stuff, but they failed also. Like maybe they weren't turned on or whatever. But if you were already logged in, you weren't affected. But if you logged out, but then you might not, then you would be affected. I guess this was this also where they did they have to do a reset? And was this where the people lost their boosts?
No, that was at the last patch.
Oh, that was earlier. Okay, but anyway, yes, hardware failure on Saturday night. But someone was there, and they did
Yeah.
fix it.
So they checked it out. The website was also down at the time, so the news didn't go out on the website, but it did go out on the social networks and whatnot. But you did mention another thing which I didn't even bother to put in the news, which was if you saw extra CXP boosts show up in your mailbox, that was because you were running a boost at the time that they deployed the last patch, which inadvertently wiped out your boost. So they sent everybody that got that wiped out a boost in the mail. If you feel like you got missed in that round of people that should have gotten a boost because yours got wiped out, you can submit a ticket and they'll take a look. You can look in the dev tracker for details on how to get that rectified.
And if you ever are wondering, hey, how do I check the dev tracker? You can just Google SWTOR dev tracker, and it will be the first thing up there.
And it will tell you the answer is 3.
And 3 is planning a coup.
Yes. Planning a coup with the Chinese. The SWTOR
Yeah.
devs are planning planning a coup. This is true. Just ask Google Home. Okay. What about guild and community news, Sema?
So I do want to say that SUP, which is our imp ops team that meets on Wednesday nights, is looking for a permanent DPS. So if you're interested in doing that on a Wednesday night, talk to Arv Vitiates. You can talk to him in Discord or catch him in game, or he's in the chat room right now.
Yeah, I heard that there was some discussions going on in Discord in particular, and they might be close to filling that. So jump in there
Yeah,
if you want to throw your name in the hat
that's right.
too. But there's always room for alts and getting more people in over time as well.
Also, Conquest this week is the Trade Emporium, which means that a notable repeatable thing is crafting. And this time it includes crafting prefabs like the synthetic, industrial, and universal prefabs. So if you have any of those blue mats from Crew Skills hanging around that you haven't been able to use in a long time, you can make some prefabs for Conquest. Also repeatable war zones in GSF, group finder flashpoints and ops, heroic missions on Voss and McCabe. The one-time stuff you can do this time are killing NPCs on Voss and McCabe, Imp and Pub Guards on Voss and McCabe, Nightmare Pilgrim, Golden Fury, which is also known as Taboros Courtyard, and the Uprisings, Destroyer of Worlds, and Inferno. For us, we invaded Voss on the Imp side and Pub on McCabe. I mean, McCabe on Pub.
Excellent. Yeah, the crafting week, you certainly have a lot of guilds going at it quite hard. So we're going to have a challenge in checking it out and trying to get on the board this week. We have some people that are sort of eyeballing that top 10 on the board and deciding whether we're going to go after it from a guild perspective. So check in the next day or two on Discord, and we'll see what we're going to do as a guild. As always, if you do want to come join our decision-making process on what we should do for Conquest and whether or not we should go after that top 10, you can check us out on Jedi Covenant. Our guild info is available at aie-guild.org if you want to find out some details on our very large multi-game community. That's pretty awesome. And otherwise, you can just jump in on Jedi Covenant and ask for an AIE Guild invite with a /cjoin AIE LFO. That's AIE looking for officer channel. And we'll get you an invite. Or you can catch us up on Twitter or Discord in particular and get an invite that way too. We would love to have you. And certainly shout out and thank you to the chat room helping us out with some notes in there. Toga-kun was letting us know that there isn't anything such thing as a master mode uprising, for example. So if we must have been doing veteran modes, story and veteran as the two modes so far. So that's good to know. And everyone else, thank you. We were having fun talking in the chat room before the start of the show. So come join the chat room sometime if you haven't. We really appreciate it. Other than that, we have a little bit of a story time tonight, apparently, of some things that have happened in the past.
Through the Force, things you will see, other places, the future, the past, old friends long gone.
Old friends long gone. Sema, tell me a story about a poor farm boy named Tenebrae and his beloved Princess Buttercup.
He's really not so much a friend, more like a frenemy, I'd say.
Yes.
But
old frenemy long gone.
yes. So Tenebrae, or who, as we came to know him later, the Sith Emperor, and then we came to know him as a Vitiate, and then we came to know him as Valkorian. He actually was the son of a Sith or a Darth and a farm woman.
Yeah.
And his farm father, or the husband of the farm woman, was giving his farm mother a hard time because he was suspicious of where this son came from. So he killed his farm father. Didn't like how he was treating his mother. But then he killed his mother too because I don't know. And then the Darth father showed up and he killed him too. So that was how he started out.
Yeah. So this is the story arc, and we'll go through the story arc. But this story arc of where he's starts out. This has been going on for a long time, and this is one of the things that we found was interesting and why we decided to sort of break it out and turn it into a story time. Vitiate and the idea of the Emperor started out between KOTOR, between the time of Revan and Knights of the Old Republic standalone games. Timeline-wise, maybe even during that time frame, although his name wasn't coming up, and we'll talk about where that sort of the first news items of where he started was announced as. But it's been going on for, so what, this is like 6 years, at least, that this idea of this Emperor has been part of the lore that we've all been participating in the game. Right. So as Sema's kicking off the story here of where he sort of started out, and this was all before the time of Knights of the Old Republic, SWTOR, the MMO. So this was probably going on during that, or even before that Revan time, because you're going to get to it next. He was on Anathema for 100 years, so he was out there. So this time frame has lasted quite a while. So, oh wait, no, even tons more than that. So he was the emperor for like 1,000 years.
Yeah, closer to 1,300 years. He was the Sith emperor.
So Revan.
Yeah, so he's.
So the time of Revan was only what, like 20 years ago in game time, in our current timelines. So yeah, no, this was not 100 years before Revan's time. It was like 1,200 years, almost 1,300 years before Revan's time.
Yes.
So he was
we'll
out
get
there.
To Revan.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why we were fascinated by this lifespan of Vitiate and this particular emperor, and this was his story of him starting out as a poor farm boy.
And also, as he kind of arced through all of SWTOR, he's been the villain the whole time we've been playing SWTOR. And now, the writers are going to have to come up with a new villain, so we also thought it was fitting for that reason to just sort of look at how he's affected his long arc over this whole game. But this is just a little starting with a little background of like who he is. After he killed his mother and father, he gained the attention of Lord Mark Aragnos, who you may have known from the famous Tomb on Korriban. And by now he's like a preteen, 13. And he eventually rose to power after that and ruled his home world. And at some point he renamed that world to Nathema, which is another name that's familiar to us. And he ruled there for about 100 years sort of to the side. He was sort of outside of Sith politics. He didn't participate in it. He was just, supreme ruler of his world, and he was doing what he was doing, but he wasn't getting involved in the Sith politics. So right along in that time, though, the Republic, the Galactic Republic, basically destroyed the Empire, and he offered a safe haven to the Sith that were escaping from that whole debacle, and they came to Nathema for his protection and to find a safe haven. And he enlisted their aid in a ritual that he said was going to destroy the Jedi, but it was actually a ruse. Instead, this ritual that they participated in, it sacrificed all of them and every living thing on Nathema in order to grant Lord Vitiate, as he was called at the time, immortality. Yeah, so that's what happened on Nathema.
So we get to see that, so spoilers, we're going to talk about everything that happens with Vitiate and Valkorion and all the way to the end. So he basically does a version of his Ziost trick way back in the beginning. It was what first gained him enough of his power to get him down that path of immortality by killing all his friends.
So at that point, he killed all his friends and everyone he didn't know, everyone on Nathema, and all the plants, animals, everything. But there were still scattered remnants of the Empire around the galaxy, so he kind of gathered them up and they went looking for a new home place. But basically this was a 20-year odyssey. They didn't drive directly to Dromund Kaas. They were lurking and searching. Some people think that maybe he was kind of dragging his feet because he was also solidifying his power and actually becoming their emperor during this trip. And they finally landed on Dromund Kaas, where they started to rebuild the Sith Empire over the next 1,000 years or so. So he was the emperor all this time of them. But immortality was not enough for him, and he sought to redo that original ritual, but on a galactic scale in order to get ultimate power to become like a god. So,
Yeah, I
in
never
yeah,
understood that part. So if you do that, then who's who's he going to rule over? He basically killed everybody in the
well, he'd have to
galaxy.
go to some other galaxy, I guess.
I
Or maybe he
guess.
didn't even care about the ruling, he just wanted the power to be like a god. I don't know. But to that end, he manipulated the Mandalorians into attacking the Republic, and that touched off another war. But that war failed to bring down the Republic, so he subverted two powerful Jedi, one that we're familiar with, well, two, we're about, I mean, there's probably people that are familiar with both of them, but anyway, Revan and Malak, he seduced them to the dark side, and he set them against the Republic. But it's somewhere in there, Revan said, no, I recant my subversion. I'm not going to be on the dark side anymore. And he almost succeeded against the Emperor, which led the Emperor to imprison him, but also to create new safeguards for himself. And that's where he came up with this ability where he could transfer his consciousness into other host bodies. And that was his way of protecting himself from death. Death
Hmm.
by being killed, because he was already immortal. He wasn't going to die from just, dying.
Right.
Then he also made further extensions of himself, which came to be known as the Emperor's Children, which we know about from the Jedi Knight story.
Yes. Oh, and this is where he had his little one of his apprentices. What was her name? I just forgot it again.
Kresh. Exile
Kresh.
Kresh.
Vodal Kresh. Wasn't that her name? Yeah, I think that was her name. So you hear these names, and I know, I'm not that deep into the
We're
lore.
not we're not lore experts. We're just kind of fascinated by this one story, so we're sharing.
So yeah, so getting into it and hearing some of these names and Mark Aragnos and Vodal Kresh and finding out who they actually are has been pretty fascinating. And I knew basically that I knew Mark Aragnos was some old Sith Lord, but
Yeah.
how it also all connected back to Vitiate Valkorion, that was pretty interesting to find out. And then you hear these other names that I think one of the Dreadmasters said something about blah 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 Vodal Kresh. Or you hear that when you're on maybe when you're on Korriban, when you're raising up your first Sith Sork or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to get through all of this lore and hear how all of this then connects in. So sorry, where were we? So,
So when we all start our class stories, like the beginning of SWTOR for us, that the Emperor is already reclusive. We already don't know really if he's around or what he's up to. It's sort of a matter of belief if he's still there. So it allows some Sith Lord characters to, proclaim that he's not around, so they try to take power, and like Darth Barris in the, again, is he the Jedi Knight story? But anyway, yes. And he had this ability
yeah.
to inhabit bodies, which we find out is called, when he's inhabiting a body, that's called the Emperor's voice. And so when that body died or was killed or whatever, he could just transfer to another one. Then in Shadow of Revan, well, even let me just say before we started Shadow of Revan, there's a flashpoint where we free Revan from the Emperor's control. And we don't really know from that what Revan's going to do or anything like that, but he does come back in the little expansion called Shadow of Revan. And Revan is the only person who knows exactly what the Emperor's been up to all this time. And Revan tries to bring the Emperor into physical form so that he can then be killed, because he can't be killed when he's in a host body or when he's just in like force form or whatever. So Revan's trying to bring him to his physical body so that he can be killed. And Revan pretty much tells us that, but we stop him anyway. That's our bad. But
Yeah. Well, because it was the crazy part of Revan that was doing
yeah,
that, which wasn't
yes,
actually going to work out in the end.
it probably wouldn't have worked. That's right.
Yeah. So it was a bad idea.
But that was what Revan was trying to do, or the crazy part of Revan was trying to do on Yavin 4. However, the Emperor was too strong, didn't work, and the Emperor made off. But he was weakened by that experience. And on Ziost, we run across him again. In order to restore some of his strength and power, he basically devours Ziost. So he sort of takes over and makes almost everybody on Ziost like an emperor's child, right? Like the children, they're possessed by him and he can control them, and we fight them on Ziost, but we can't save Ziost. Ziost gets destroyed. And the emperor then, I guess he gains the power that was in Ziost.
Yeah. So that was pretty dramatic. He did his anathema trick on Ziost then again, and the cutscenes and everything are quite dramatic in that ending of Ziost. I think you sort of touched on it, but when we release Revan, especially if you do it from the Republic side and you release Revan's sort of mad about it.
Yeah.
And that's because he was sort of locked in a mind battle with the Emperor, and that's what he, I don't know if he thought he was just going to be able to pull that off for eternity. But that mind battle with the Emperor was basically keeping the Emperor in check for all of those years. And the chat room let us know that it was about 300 years that Revan was captured by the Emperor and imprisoned and kept alive in that prison and in that mind battle. So yeah, Revan's a little mad. He's a little broken up about it, a little salty, and then also has these other problems later.
The whole
that
splitting
causes
up,
him to
right?
split apart.
Yeah. So that brings us up to the point of the beginning of Knights of the Fallen Empire, or as we call it, Coffee. At which point he appears to us as Valkorion. Like, I, for one, didn't completely buy it at first that this was the same emperor, even though that's what the story said, because they seemed so different. And how could the emperor that we knew and that we just saw devour everything on Ziost, how could he be a family man, with a wife and 2 kids and all that? But basically it was the emperor who had transferred his essence, his consciousness, his force into the body of Valkorion. And unbeknownst to the rest of the galaxy, during part of that time when the emperor was sort of not present or whatever, he was forging this new society on Zakul in his host body of Valkorion. Then, as we know in the story, the body of Valkorion was struck down in an altercation that involved you, the player, and Arkan, the son. But by now, he advanced enough so that he didn't really need a host body, so he just sort of infests your player character, and that's where he's sort of living in this, he's sort of this energy form, and he's living in the Outlander. But he's still working towards what it is that he wants, which is, ultimate power to be a god. But he's manipulating us, and we don't know, when he says do this or do that, we don't know what it's going to lead to. So that is part of the sort of drama of the story for us. But the fact that Valkorion takes over the Outlander is what led Arkan to freeze us in Carbonite, and ultimately leads to 5 years of missing from the galaxy, and then Lana coming to let us out. Bless her heart.
Yeah. So this was interesting, and I think what the deal was. So back when for quite a while, the Emperor was sort of like this more force ghost than person. Back even when he was battling Revan, and then when he was a recluse and doing his mind battle with Revan. He had been throughout that time, and I think even potentially before, preparing Zakul and the Zakulan Empire with this whole deal, and so then when Valkorion, he sort of hooked up with Valkorion, which must have been like the 100 years before, or whatever, 50 years before we get to Knights of the Fallen Empire. He guides does his brain tricks to guide Valkorion in the creation of the Empire, treats Valkorion's brain as one of his children, infests it, and lives Valkorion's life for a while, still guiding that Eternal Empire. Supposedly, all of that's going on while he's still sort of running the Empire in our end of the galaxy as well, which, granted, he was a recluse and he was barely running the Empire, and this is what allowed the Dark Council to basically be running things. But that seems, I don't know, that always seemed a little weird to me.
But I think at that point, just, looking back, knowing what we know now, I think he already considered the Sith Empire to be a failure, not what he wanted. And
Yeah.
he was already sort of more invested in this Zakulian Empire that he was building. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, but I think you're leading to this. It's also interesting then, a little bit of a weird part was, as he's building that up and as he's sort of pulling the strings on the Valkorion puppet, he goes ahead and has some kids, gets married, has a few kids, and that's what leads us into then Knights of the Fallen Empire, is getting to him after he sort of like lived this life and raised some kids. I mean, he did a pretty terrible job as a father, but still, I mean, it seemed like he was so like corrupted beyond having any kind of that much humanity in him. I could see it sort of being written into the fact, though, that because he's sort of injecting himself into this new environment in life, that maybe that sort of spun him into the opportunity to try out being a human again. But that also seemed a little bit weird. It seemed out of character that he would bother with family and that kind of thing as he's creating his new empire off in Zakul.
I think he was, by creating this family, he was creating tools for him to use, because at the end of the Eternal Throne, he comments that, Valen was his most perfect creation.
True, and he has no problem using them as tools and sacrificing them as he will to perfect the tools, etc. You can achieve anything if you are willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, so that brings us up to Knights of the Eternal Throne. I mean, it's actually Copy and Kotet are like, the same parts of the same story. So even though the members of this family are very much at odds with each other, they sort of work together with the Outlander to defeat Tenebrae, Vicious, Valkorion for good.
Yeah.
And they do it sort of in the Force Ghost part of the world. I mean, they don't mess. Well, there's no body for them to kill anyway in the physical world. So each in their own way have to enter that
Basically
energy
your head,
world where, basically your head, right? And like, for instance, well, in my version of it, Arakan, and I think you both go in by using the datacron, but then Senya is able to enter just by, because she kills everyone that she's fighting.
Hard.
She can just concentrate real hard, and then she enters because a mother's love and all that.
Yeah, so she does force meditation and shows up in there as well. She shows up in both the dark side and the light side endings. So
I just
went
wasn't sure
through
what Arcan was in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we never did the wrap up show, which went through all of that story. I had not done the dark side story, and we may do that still at some point, maybe even next week, depending on how things go. But there's a lot of people you can kill or not kill, and that includes Arkan, for example. So if you go light side and you haven't killed Arkan and he's around, he's sort of like goes with you into this battle in your head, and he's by your side. Valen shows up because Valkorion summons her after she's already dead, and tries to control her, and then sort of she joins the battle against you and then with you. But in both the dark and the light, Senya shows up, and Senya strikes down the final killing blow, or one of the final killing blows. at the end in both of those. I guess she wasn't. She still had to be pretty pissed at you, but but more pissed at Valkorion apparently. So I thought that was interesting. If you don't have Arkin around, Arkin and Senya around, then it's our main pals throughout the whole story.
Lana and Theron?
Yeah, Lana and Theron, who are hanging out with you as you make yourself into the Emperor and do the mind battle after you sit on the throne and that kind of thing. And I thought that was interesting to see. I'd never played much of the dark side, but they were sort of, well, that's a story for another show. They seemed to be okay with, even Theron seemed to be okay with you becoming, sort of a dark side Emperor. He's like, okay, cool. Like, I didn't think you'd really go that way, but whatever, Theron. But yeah, I liked that sort of that final battle. I thought that was epic enough to have sort of that final mind battle and defeat the spirit and have to, have a team of very powerful force users to go after him. I thought that was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was okay too. And just if I had just played it myself and that was the only experience I've had, I would come out of it still thinking that it's possible that, he's somehow still lingering somewhere. But I don't think so.
No,
Not
I think,
after.
yeah, I think they made that pretty clear. And they can't have him do that forever because he can't be around unless he's Snoke's. Unless he's Snoke. I guess that's not impossible.
He had to live for a really long time for that to happen. But yeah, I mean, he's. Well, of course they make it clear. I mean, for Arkin, in my version of it anyway, Arkin says, no, he's gone, I can tell. I'm like, well, he's pretty powerful. If he wanted to shield himself from you, I'm pretty sure he could. But,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in theory, he's gone, and I think he is gone. And I think it makes sense to bring that story to a close.
Yeah, that's the thing that convinces me. And then, of course, Charles Boyd has said, now they have to write a new villain. So, yeah.
Yeah, which is a challenge. So, yeah, how long? It's 5.5 years that SWTOR's been out because we had the 5th anniversary. Aren't we at 5.5 years now?
Yeah, something like that.
So that idea that this has been going on then for the year or two that the game was in development as well, the idea of Valkorion Vitiate as this main villain in the center of the story for so long puts us in a weird state, I think, right now for a little bit. And that's recognized, and that's what Charles Boyd's talking about. We've had that sort of that nebulous emperor idea the same way we had it in so much of the original 6 movies. The idea of the emperor, the coming to power, and that that emperor, Sidious, to not have an emperor right now, to not have sort of like that central point of the evil overlord, puts us in a weird state that they're going to have to rectify in some way pretty soon. So we'll see how that works out.
And we don't know. We don't know if they're going to bring someone to the fore that we already know or create a completely new antagonist.
Yeah, maybe. What's his name? Who we saw whose body was frozen that we tossed down a well. Our favorite guy from the launch, Darth.
Malgus?
Malgus, yeah, Malgus. Malgus could come back. Although we all like Malgus.
He would be popular, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like he had some really
good
ideas.
He would be very popular.
He was I think we'd all but then he would make a good emperor because a lot of people would willingly join him, right?
Right.
But he's not evil enough. He's not like
not evil
that's the
enough,
thing about
right.
Star Wars lore is Star Wars lore has been very black and white on there is, absolute evil. There's not a lot of shades of gray. There is bad and there's good, and you can rely on that. So having the really bad emperor to be able to be the foil to the good side, is sort of central to how Star Wars storytelling works. So to have somebody who's like you can sympathize with, and some people sort of like, and that kind of thing as the main, the bad would be difficult in a Star Wars, I think, in a Star Wars setting. Sort of like the way right now when Darth Vader shows up in, well, that's a little bit of a spoiler that you haven't seen, but you know that he's going to show up in
Yeah.
Star Wars
Things.
the movie 7. Why can I not think of anything tonight? What is going on with my brain? The one that you haven't
The
seen.
Force Awakens?
No.
Oh, you mean Rogue One?
Rogue One.
Yeah.
So when Vader shows up in Rogue One, but people sort of really like him, he's supposed to be like, pretty bad, and you're supposed to be scared of him, especially at that point. But everybody's like, "Yay, it's Vader!" You don't want that. You need like the Emperor. You need like the evil to make Star Wars sort of work as a story.
You need Vitiate. You need some character like this. And Vitiate had such a long history, and he built up to this level of antagonist and this level of evilness over hundreds of years. So it's going to be tricky. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, although they're doing
To
that
come
with
up with
Force
something.
Awakens right now too. They've introduced a new
Yeah.
new
I mean, that's
overlord of some kind
Yeah,
but you
I
don't
was
really
gonna
know
say-
the story. So maybe they're going a new
That's
direction
true.
with that too. Maybe they're going the idea of maybe Snoke's is gray in some ways. I mean, he does his little story about the dark side and the light, and he's feeling them both and that kind of thing. And we know there's conflict within. I'm gonna forget everybody's name. Our new little Darth boy.
oh, Kylo Ren.
Yeah, Kylo Ren. I can't name anyone else.
Maybe tea wasn't such a good idea.
Yes, something is interrupting my memory processes. But
Darth boy.
but we'll see. I bet they'll still have the dark that we'll be able to fight against in Star Wars, because it would be difficult for them to go down a path where there's not like good and evil. It'd be a new direction, but they could. So how do you compare Vitiate to Darth Sidious as emperors, and the power of their characters and that kind of thing, and how they've been written, each of them in their story arcs?
I am so much more familiar with Vitiate after, playing sort of every leg of his journey. I feel like he basically sort of was the galaxy at some point. I mean, yeah, I think he's a big deal. But what do you think?
I think he's, in a lot of sort of lore ways, quite a bit more epic in power and scope than Darth Sidious was. So yeah, that's quite a challenge. Now, it goes way beyond, I think, what they could have put into it. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's quite a bit more fantastical too, than Darth Sidious. So in that way, is he less believable than Darth Sidious as a character in the Star Wars universe? Maybe, and maybe that's part of the problem. I know a lot of people are sort of, especially from the transition of Vitiate to Valkorion, sort of critical as the idea of what he's doing there. But the idea of him, burning up whole planets to fuel his immortality and him being immortal and all of that kind of thing, compared to Sidious, even that alone, even if he had never done the Valkorion thing, and you as a Jedi Knight in the Jedi Knight story had killed him, that was still quite a bit more epic power than Darth Sidious ever displays. Although Sidious talks about the idea of being able to use rituals to gain immortality through the dark side of the Force. He never really does, that we know of. He could toss down a shaft in the.
I mean,
the
how
Death
many
Star
planets
there, and...
did he devour?
Yeah, really. So, and the chat room says Darth Sidious's power was more that he was a master manipulator behind the scenes rather than the raw power of the dark side of the Force. In that way, he's a much more interesting character to build movies around. In that he could be manipulating, the whole creation of the Empire through through the destruction of the Republic without exercising physical force or the dark side of the power. That political mastery is really interesting as a character.
And also, it's easier to make a movie of that in the 70s than it would be, epic planet-destroying effects.
Right. So, I think they're both interesting, and they're both pretty epic, and I think it's going to be a challenge for even Snoke to live up to what either of those kind of characters brought to either the legends or canon. And it'll be, I think, even more of a challenge for whatever we're going to do next in SWTOR. That's going to be a big hill to climb for our current writing team. I think they've sort of got, and I know they're potentially up to the challenge. I do like some of what that team can come up with, but that's going to be a big one. So, good luck to them. And good luck to us in being able to experience that, hopefully, in the next year or so. Okay. I think that's a good point to leave it. And maybe we'll talk more about sort of that overall story in the future. But we don't do a lot of these lower story times. I think this was pretty fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
So thank you for the story.
Hope you guys did
Sema.
too. Yeah. Story time with Sema. And Max.
So I think with that, our 184 EPC 184 droid can pack up and head out after and take his ultimate power of his little droid friends that he's consumed into the escape pod. So thanks to all of you for joining us on newoverlords.com, on iTunes, YouTube, or live on Twitch. We will stream again next Tuesday night on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:30 p.m. Central. Please follow us on Twitter @MaxTheGray and @AIESema. And come find us on Jedi Covenant and ask us for an AIE Guild invite. We would love to have you. And we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.